You see, what is now happening in Bangladesh is actually the present government has declared war against its own people. During the last 1 week, the government has killed more than 300 people, and most of them are young students. The age bracket of the victims, majority of the victims, is between 18 to 22. In one case, a 15-year-old boy, he's a student of 10th standard, has been killed by police firing. So inhuman, so brutal. Actually, Sheikh Hasina, the ruling dictatorial prime minister, she has to take the maximum blame for the present situation. Because when the movement started within the campus, university and the college campus, it was a very peaceful demonstration. Unfortunately, without offering the young people for a dialogue, Sheikh Hasina, she dismissed the demand and abused and ridiculed the activists, the students, and then let loose her armed militant party cadres to terrorize the unarmed, peaceful young boys and girls. And after that terrorization and the violence failed, Sheikh Hasina called police, Rapid Action Battalion, and even the paramilitary force, the border guard of Bangladesh, to use maximum lethal force without any consideration or any respect for human lives against the unfortunate young boys and girls. And what happened? A vicious cycle of violence started, and Bangladesh became a killing field. So many people, so many boys and girls lost their lives. To complicate the matter further, the ministers, the senior ministers, they directly abated and incited violence just to satisfy the ego of the dictator. And as a result of that, the situation of Bangladesh has become absolutely terrible. Who is to blame for this situation? It is definitely Sheikh Hasina and her ministers are to blame, along with the member of the so-called law enforcing agencies who are really killing their own country people. So I have a feeling, what I can see now, that even if this government, they can suppress the movement by using maximum force against the people, by killing more people, I think the government has lost its legitimacy, lost its moral and legal right to rule. The demand has changed from the Quota movement. Now the repressed people, they are demanding their right to protest. They are demanding for their right for peaceful assembly, for freedom of expression, and demanding for the right to elect their own leaders. So it has evolved. It has evolved and transformed the demand to a much greater movement, much meaningful movement than the initial Quota movement. So I don't think the government can survive after killing so many people. That doesn't mean that the government will fall tomorrow. What I'm trying to say, that the clock is ticking. The clock has started ticking. So it is only a question of time before they have to go. What this government has done in the name of development, they have created a corrupt oligarchy. The Bangladesh is now ruled by oligarchy. And this money of the people are going to the pockets of those oligarchy and the people in power. The Prime Minister has herself accepted that her personal assistant has amassed a wealth of $40 million.
আমার বাসায় কাজ করে গেছে পিয়ন, সে এখন 400 কোটি টাকার মালিক। হেলিকপ্টার ছাড়া চলে না। হ্যাঁ, বাস্তব কথা। কি করে বানালো এই টাকা?
Can you imagine when the personal assistant, which is also called peon in Bangladesh, a peon of a prime minister, he is making $40 million than what the other members of the cabinet and even the Prime Minister and her family are making. So from where they are getting this money? From the government exchequer, from the people's money, people's fund. So as a result of this, actually, the Prime Minister, it is unfortunate for the Prime Minister to have accepted that Bangladesh has become such a corrupt country when her peon can make $40 million. If you are a true freedom fighter, a patriotic freedom fighter, a dedicated freedom fighter, then the very opportunity to fight for the independence of your country is the greatest honor. And for a real freedom fighter, the greatest honor is always the sincere respect of the people of the country. The liberation war of Bangladesh is a 53 years old story. It happened in 1971. And most of the freedom fighters have already benefited from the quota system during their lifetimes. And most of the actual freedom fighters are dead by now. To my knowledge, the families of the freedom fighters are still getting government pension. Every single family of the freedom fighters, they are getting pension even 53 years after the liberation war. Now, to have a quota system to give benefit to the grandchildren of the freedom fighter is not only ridiculous, I think it is demeaning and insulting to the memories of the real heroes. Every country in the world have their own heroes, have their own war heroes, have their own freedom fighters. You cannot cite a single country in the world other than Bangladesh where those national heroes, the children and the grandchildren, are getting the quota system in the government job because their grandparents, they fought for the country. It is only happening in Bangladesh. Sheikh Hasina is not doing it for the sake of the freedom fighters. You have to understand that. Why she is doing it? She is using this quota system, this very unjust and unfair quota system, to handpick her own people and pro-Indian element in the country, to put them in the government job at the expense of the meritocracy, at the expense of the meritorious students. Why he is doing it? Because if she can put her own people under this quota system, then she can control the administration. That is the reason why during the last 16 years, she has employed her personal people, the cadres of Army League, the cadres of the student front, in the police, in the military, in all law enforcing agencies, in the administration. And that is the reason why she can control Bangladesh. She could really arrange the 3 consecutive farcical elections with the help of these people in 2014, in 2018, and again in 2024. So this quota system actually is abused and misused by the present government in the name of the freedom fighters. She is actually insulting them. So it has to go. It is an unjust system, it has to go. Let's talk about the verdict of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has given verdict that this 56% quota, can you imagine? They had 56% quota in the government job in the name of the freedom fighters. Freedom fighters were getting 30%, there were other quotas, so altogether 56% quota government had. So the meritorious students only got 44% of the jobs. Now, Supreme Court has said the quota cannot be more than 7%. So they have reduced the quota from 56 to 7%. So reduction of 49%. That means the demand of the students was fair, was just. Supreme Court has validated the demand, the fairness of the demand of the students. then the people of Bangladesh can ask the Prime Minister, then why the killings? Why you have killed more than 300 young people, young students in the last 7 days alone? Because the highest court of the country has said that it was a fair demand. And the massacre, it is one of the worst in the recent times, if not the worst. I give you two examples, which is much talked about massacre in the last 50 years. One is Gwangju massacre in South Korea in 1980. And the other is Tiananmen Square massacre in Beijing in 1989. How many people were killed in Gwangju and Tiananmen? I give you the number. In Gwangju, 231 people were killed. Out of the 231 people, about 100 were students. Out of 231. In Tiananmen Square, there is serious controversy that actually how many people were killed in Tiananmen. But even if we follow the American media, then it is any number between 600 to 1,000. So out of the 600 to 1,000 victims, the students' number was less than 200. Think about it. In Gwangju, less than 100. In Tiananmen Square, less than 200. In Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina has killed 300 in the last 7 days. Can you imagine? Gwangju and Tiananmen, both are iconic, sort of iconic, you know. Everybody talks about Gwangju and even today, after 50 years, Gwangju and Tiananmen. And Sheikh Hasina has killed 300 students in 1 week. So she has to take the responsibility of this massacre. Bangladesh is a killing field today. She and her ministers has to take the responsibility. How the students can get justice? They can get justice by throwing out the government. They have to take the responsibility and resign, and allow people, to elect their own government, to return the democracy to the people. That should be the justice. And of course, there should be justice for the killing of the students. That should be the justice. It is not about the quota anymore. It is about a repressive, autocratic, and a dictatorial government, which has killed, which has committed the worst massacre in the history in recent times. So that cannot go without taking proper action. We have heard that they are committing another so-called combing operation in Bangladesh. They are picking up people, they are putting them in jail, they are torturing people. This cannot go like this. I mean, this is not acceptable. I mean, international community and the Islamic world must look what is happening to Bangladesh, and they must protest what is happening. One of the worst massacre by a government against its own people is going on now. International community cannot keep silent.